Hello there. Welcome to my program today. I want to talk to you about something that's disturbing. I know that many people who are charged with the crime are guilty, and it's very obvious they're guilty from the very beginning when they're first charged. But there's a lot of gray areas. We've seen so many instances of people even being on death row who were later found proven to be innocent. And so we have some protections built into the Constitution to give you a right to have a lawyer, to put in some steps in place to give you some defense if you're charged. And of course, under our Constitution, that applies even if you don't have any money. If you're indigent, we have programs in most states that have what they call the indigent defender boards, where there are full-time defenders of those who can't afford a lawyer. Well, that's the case in most states. A few states, though, don't have that situation. They have the old system, and I know about it because when I first started practicing law, judges would also say, hey, Jim, this guy's charged with a robbery or shooting or whatever. You represent him. Now, I'm a brand new, wet, behind-the-ears lawyer up in Faraday, Louisiana. Had never tried a criminal case, but I was given these cases, and I did the best I could. And I think I ended up becoming a pretty good lawyer because of that hard work. That's still a process. The problem is that the criminal law has gotten so complicated that when you say, well, we're just going to appoint a lawyer who maybe specializes in auto accidents, he knows nothing about the criminal law. And so that's why it's become more specialized. The state behind the curve is our friends over in Mississippi, who still use the old system of appointing a lawyer, whatever your expertise happens to be. The reason I bring this up is there's a very tragic case in the state of Mississippi right now. A Judge Marcus Gordon is the judge in what is called Scott County. If you don't know Mississippi, if you go from Jackson on I-20 over east towards Florida, you go through Scott County. Small county, about 28,000 people. I've been through there on many occasions. And they have this one judge, Judge Gordon, up that way. And he likes the old way, and even more so than just giving the prosecutors the benefit of the doubt. He says that people charged with the crimes, they are criminals. This is in 2015. When a judge in Mississippi says people charged with crimes, they are criminals. We don't care whether they were set up. We don't care what the evidence is. They are criminals. So this judge doesn't appoint lawyers. He appoints lawyers only after you've been indicted. So someone can get charged with they can be put in jail for a year or more and just sit there and never get a lawyer to represent them because Judge Gordon, Marcus D. Gordon in Scott County, Mississippi, says that's just the way he does things. I think it's appalling. And I hope some well-meaning lawyers and the Supreme Court hopefully will take notice in Mississippi. And I'm not lambasting Mississippi. I married two women from Mississippi, not one, but two. Have my first wife, my second wife, all Mississippi girls. I spent a lot of time in Mississippi. Got a lot of listeners in Mississippi, in Hattiesburg, Macomb, Jackson, Natchez, Mississippi. A lot of listeners up that way. Good folks in Mississippi. It's just a crying shame that you have a judge up there that goes with the old system. And the old system can give you some strange results. Now, I worked hard to be a criminal lawyer, and I think I helped a number of people in that regard. Tell you one story about a young man I represented. He was charged, he was coon hunting at night with a shotgun and his dog, and was out hunting. No, he didn't have a shotgun, had a rifle. You could shoot, you coon hunt with a rifle. And it's illegal to shoot deer at night, but you can shoot coon at night in the various seasons. So this young man, about 18 years old, had his rifle with his dog. He was coon hunting out in the woods. There were reports that shots were fired, and so the local game wardens were called out. Local game wardens thought they were going to catch a deer hunter, so they hid below a railroad track trestle. Young man walks over the railroad tracks. They shine big bright lights in his face. He rears back, and accidentally the gun goes off and shoots the game warden in the shoulder. Well, he was charged with attempted murder of a game warden. I was appointed by the judge. Here, Brown, you're going to represent this guy. I didn't have any criminal law experience at all, but I thought it was a mistake, just an honest mistake. When the lights were shining in his eyes, he fired back and shot the game warden. But he was charged with attempted murder. was an all-white jury. He happened to be African American. I did my best to defend this young man, pleading that this was an accident. The jury said no, he's going to jail. I appealed the case all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, in a very close vote, in a 5-4 decision, voted against me and said the young man should go to jail. He came to me in tears in his eyes, says, "Mr. Brown, what's going to happen?" I said, "Well, I'm going to try to get you a pardon from the governor. I think this is terrible what happened to you. I will continue to represent you. Remember, I'm getting zero, not a penny for doing this kind of thing." So he says, "Well, what's going to happen next?" And I said, "Well, when that Supreme Court order gets up to the clerk of court, the clerk will give the order to the sheriff. You will be picked up at your residence and you will be taken down to the state prison down in Angola. But I promise you, I'll try my best to keep you out of jail." So he went home and he waited sheriff to come get him to take him to the state penitentiary. That was in 1967 is when I tried that case. Today is 2015. He's still waiting for the sheriff to come get him to take him to the state penitentiary. I don't know what happened. The paperwork slipped through the cracks, but somehow or other, the notice didn't get back to the local officials. And I'm not going to tell you where he lived, not going to tell you his name. I don't know if there's a statute of limitations in these cases, but justice prevailed in that case in the paperwork that did not get back home for this young man to be arrested. He shouldn't have been arrested. It's unfair. In any event, the criminals ought to go to jail. But they're entitled to lawyers because we've seen so many instances in this country where innocent people have not given their rights, and you don't get them in Scott County, Mississippi. I hope that changes. Hey, I'll be right back.